तव कथामृतम् तप्तजीवनम् कविभिरीडितम् कल्मषापहम् श्रवणमङ्गलम् श्रीमदाततम् भुवि गृह्णन्ति ये भूरिदा जनाः भुवि गृह्णन्ति ये भूरिदा जनाः।
ओम तव कथामृतं तप्त जीवनम कविभिरीडितं कल्मषापहं श्रवणमंगलं श्रीमदाततं भुवि गृह्णन्ति ये भूरिदा जना. We are studying the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, and we are in the conversation of 14th December 1882, and midway we are, and Thakur is talking to Vijay Krishna Goswami. And we pick it up here, English page 168, and Bengali page 119. Bengali page 118. Bengali page 118, Pancham Parichet. And just above that Pancham Parichet, there is a line, Sri Ramakrishna Vijayar Prati. So from that we are picking up, and here in English, to Vijay, come here now and then. I like to see you very much. So that Vijay had the capacity to make spiritual progress, and in Thakur's company, he would have made that spiritual progress. So that is the meaning of I like to see you very much. Vijay, I have to do my various duties in the Brahma Samaj, because he was paid for that at that time. That is why I can't always come here, but I shall visit you whenever I find it possible. Master to Vijay. So he takes up that topic, that religious teacher you are, but can you really teach? So he wants to awaken the pure spiritual aspiration in Vijay, giving up all so-called religious or actually social, financial obligations. The task of a religious teacher is indeed difficult. One cannot teach men without a direct command from God. That has been Thakur's preaching throughout. Direct command from God. People won't listen to you if you teach without such authority. Such teaching has no force behind it. One must first of all attain God through spiritual discipline or some other means. Spiritual discipline or some other means? अच्छा अच्छा करते हैं. Okay. Some First of all, attain God through spiritual discipline or some other means. Somehow, brother. Somehow realize God. Thus, armed with authority from God, one can deliver lectures. Understand the authority. After receiving the command from God, one can be a teacher and give lectures anywhere. He who receives authority from God also receives power from Him. Only then can he perform the difficult task of a teacher. So, authority from God, side by side power from God, and then that affects people, not lectures. After receiving the command from God, an insignificant tenant. So, he gives an example of the power received from God. Beautiful stories Thakur has. An insignificant tenant was once engaged in a lawsuit with a big landlord. People realized that there was a powerful man behind the tenant. Otherwise, how can fight with a landlord? Perhaps another big landlord was directing the case from behind. Man is an insignificant creature. He cannot fulfill the difficult task of a teacher without receiving power direct from God. So much directly is telling Vijay Goswami. Vijay, don't the teachings of the Brahma Samaj bring men salvation? So he asking a direct question. And not only spiritual progress, he talks of salvation. So there is a big paragraph in Bengali which is left in English. লেকচার দিতে হয় ওদের সে একটি পুকুর আছে যে কোন রূপ হোক এর thus armed with authority from God one can deliver lectures. তার আদেশ পেয়ে লেকচার দিতে হয় ও দেশে after receiving there is a story, oft repeated story by Thakur. That's why perhaps they have dropped it in English. But it is there. So I will roughly translate in English and tell you. In that country, that means near Thakur's place, in that country there is a pond named Haldar Pukur. On the edges of that, everyday people used to pass tools. Those who used to visit the ghat in the morning, they used to abuse and shout and make a lot of noise there. But all that noise was of no use. Next day, again, on the edge, there would be stools. In the end, the company means British government, because the form was East India Company, so they used to call it company. In the end, the peon of the company came and hung one notice there. Nobody can do such work here. If he does, he will be punished. After this notice, nobody used to pass stools on the edge. So, notice, and there is a power behind that notice. So that is the story. I would say these days nobody will care for notice also, unless he is caught and punished. And then this para. After receiving the command from God, one can be a teacher and give lectures anywhere. He who receives authority from God also receives power from him. Only then can he perform the difficult task of a teacher. Then we read that tenant, Vijay. Then the question. Don't the teachings of the Brahma Samaj bring men salvation? Paritran hoy na. So, Paritran, that is the Christian idea. Master, how is it ever possible for one man to liberate another from the bondage of the world? Not possible. God alone, the creator of this world bewitching Maya, can save men from Maya. Mameva ye prapadyante mayamedam tarantite. In the Gita, it is clearly said, 7th chapter. There is no other refuge but that great teacher, Satchidananda. Who is the teacher? Brahman, existence, knowledge, bliss. How is it ever possible for men who have not realized God or received His command and who are not strengthened with divine strength to save others from the prison house of the world? Now, another story. One day, as I was so directly he is eating to save Vijay Krishna himself first. One day, as I was passing the Panchavati on my way to the Pine Grove was a place where Sri Ramakrishna used to go to answer calls of nature. And is it called pine?
Jhautara.
What do you call it? You know.
Bengali.
English. Bengali jhau. Kasurina.
Oh, Kasurina. It's different from pine.
Pine trees are very different. Kasurina. Anyway, pine grove. I heard a bullfrog croaking. Kola bag. Big fat bag. There is bullfrog. I thought it must have been seized by a snake. After some time, as I was coming back, I could still hear its terrified croaking. I looked to see what was the matter and found that a water snake had seized it. Water snakes are not poisonous. The snake could neither swallow it nor give it up. So there was no end to the frog's suffering. I thought that had it been seized by a cobra, it would have been silenced after 3 croaks at the most. As it was only a water snake, both of them had to go through the agony. A man's ego is destroyed after 3 crooks, as it were, if he gets into the clutches of a real teacher. But if the teacher is an unripe one, then both the teacher and the disciple undergo endless suffering. The disciple cannot get rid of either of his ego or of the shackles of the world. If a disciple falls into the clutches of an incompetent teacher, he doesn't attain liberation. Direct answer. One funny thing happened just now. I saw in the internet Vivekananda Goswami, and very little of what we have read here appears. Only one meeting with Ramakrishna is described, and that is much later than the date we are reading. October 82. And there it says, seeing him first time, Thakur sang some lines of Bengali poetry, meaning that you give up your preacher job and be free from the shackles of the world. That much only. And then so many humbug things are described. And again he used to be a preacher of Brahma Samaj, again and again. And not getting on with this Brahma Samaj, he used to go to that Brahma Samaj, from there, that Brahma Samaj, Dhaka Brahma Samaj. There he came in conflict. And then started his own ashram.
In Bengal? In Bengal? He started his ashram?
Near Dhaka, in East Bengal. Genda ashram. To equate that the rhinoceros roams freely, like that. Anyway. And here, in Gospel, we get day-to-day details. And another thing I found in that narration, now Vijay Krishna's disciple has written all those things. We know another Brahma, Trilokanath Sanyal, his pen name was Chiranjeev Sharma, and he composed almost all the beautiful Brahma songs. And in that, it says, in that internet, Wikipedia, that Chiranjeev Sharma tried to assassinate Vijay Krishna Goswami. And the attempt failed. Anyway, so as far as I know, this Wikipedia article on Vijay Krishna should not be taken seriously, because we have so many details in the gospel day to day. Vijay, now he becomes straight and asks a different question. Sir, why are we bound like this? Why don't we see God? Previously, one question was that those who are bound, how they can come to salvation. Now, Thakur, Maya is nothing but the egotism of the embodied soul. So Maya means God's deluding power, and its first manifestation in life is egotism. You know the difference between egotism and egoism? Egoism is ordinary I consciousness, and egotism is pride. Here only ahankar. Okay. This egotism has covered everything like a veil. So we don't know ourselves at all. Everything we look at through the prism of egotism. All troubles come to an end when the ego dies. Very clear statement. When the small I dies, then only the big I or God's I will manifest. Not till then. If by the grace of God a man but once realizes that he is not the doer, then he at once becomes a Jivan-Mukta. So this statement we discussed a lot one day. Lot. That means Shankar says that this cannot be Mukti. This is at Krama Mukti. But Thakur has again and again said that if doership is gone, he is Jivan Mukta. So how and what? Shankar has to accept this as Krama Mukti. And for all practical purposes, this is Mukti. Anyway, we discussed a big lecture, full lecture almost. Though living in the body, he is liberated. He has nothing else to fear. So Thakur has very directly talked about this. Because suppose, I talk like that, suppose I know that I am not the doer, then what worry I have? If Thakur is the doer, where shall I get my food? Where shall I go tomorrow? What shall I do? Is there any problem remaining in life? So am I not mukta in the all sense of the word? That is what Thakur is saying. Though living in the body is liberated, he has nothing else to fear. This Maya, that is to say the ego, is like a cloud. You know cloud?
Cloud obstructs the sun.
Cloud is very, very insignificantly small compared to the size of the sun. And what the cloud does?
Hides the sun.
Covers our eyes. And we say the sun is covered. So that is the function of the cloud. This Maya, that is in Sanskrit, there is a poem by Shankar's disciple, Ganachanna Drittir, Ganachanna Markam. The sun cannot be seen on account of a thin patch of cloud. When that disappears, one sees the sun. If by the grace of the Guru one's ego vanishes, then one sees God. So, in the last para, grace of God. This para, grace of Guru. So, God's grace and Guru's grace has been equated by Sri Ramakrishna. Because Guru is Satchidananda. It is God's power working through the Guru. This should be marked. Rama, who is God himself, was only 2.5 cubits ahead of Lakshmana. The description is Ram, Sita and Lakshmana going through the forest. Now the paths would be narrow. Maybe one man only would pass. So Rama would lead the way and Lakshmana would form the rear so that Sita is protected. In that way they are going. Rama, who is God himself, was only 2.5 cubits ahead of Lakshmana. But Lakshmana couldn't see him because Sita stood between them. Lakshmana may be compared to the Jiva and Sita to Maya. Man cannot see God on account of the barrier of Maya. Just look. I am creating a barrier in front of my face with this towel. So Thakur demonstrates this. Puts a towel between Thakur and that person. Now you can't see me, even though I am so near. Likewise, God is the nearest of all. Nearest. We are not near. We are in our body, indriyas, mind, and God is our reality. So is the innermost, nearmost. Now, even though I am so near, likewise God is the nearest of all, but we cannot see him on account of this covering of Maya. The Jiva is nothing but the embodiment of Satchidananda. So Thakur's talks will always smell of Advaita. But since Maya or ego has created various upadhis, he has forgotten his real self. What is upadhi? That which is not the real nature but appears as a real nature, that is called upadhi. Each upadhi changes man's nature. If he wears a fine black bordered cloth, you will at once find him humming Nidhu Babu's love song. You understand this upadhi? Black bordered dhoti.
Stylish.
In Bengal, black bordered dhoti is used by the new sons-in-law. So this is an upadhi. It is not going to stay longer. But as soon as he wears that, he starts. Now, let me tell this also. Nidhu Babu's love song. Huh? I knew that. Tappa. Tappa is a semi-classical music. And it has originated in Punjab.
Oh.
But in Bengal, it was popularized by Nidhu Babu. And he composed on that compositions. And so people call Nidhu Babu's Tappa. It is perhaps 14 beats. Nidhu Babu's love song. Then playing cards and a walking stick follow. All this is a new son-in-law, newly married man. Even a sickly man puts on high boots, he begins to whistle and climb the stairs like an Englishman. Because high boots are the English fashion. That is upadhi. And as soon as you put that, you want to climb the stairs like an Englishman, jumping from one step to another. If a man, so this one upadhi, Third, if a man but holds a pen in his hand, he scribbles on any paper he can get hold of. Such is the power of the pen. Another upadhi. Money is also a great upadhi. Thakur tells a funny story here. The possession of money makes such a difference in a man. He is no longer the same person. A Brahmin used to frequent the temple garden. Outwardly, he was very modest. One day I went to Konnagar with Hriday. Konnagar is a part of Calcutta or near Calcutta. No sooner did we get off the boat than we noticed the Brahman seated on the bank of the Ganges. We thought he had been enjoying the fresh air. Looking at us, he said, "Hello there, priest. How do you do?" I marked his tone and said to Hriday, "The man must have got some money. That's why he talks that way." Hriday laughed. So Thakur has described different upadhis. A frog, that is a funny story. A frog had a rupee, which he kept in his hole. One day, an elephant was going over the hole, and the frog, coming out in a fit of anger, raised his foot as if to kick the elephant. Now, this is a story made by Thakur, and said, "How dare you walk over my head? Such is the pride that money begets." A frog challenging the elephant. Both of them do not know the value of money. So, beautiful story created by Thakur. One can get rid of the ego after the attainment of knowledge. So, you must tell the solution. The question was, why are we bound? Why don't we see God? So, answer is ego, and in how many ways that ego functions, that is going on. One can get rid of the ego after the attainment of knowledge. Knowledge, we should remember always, knowledge means change of consciousness. I am a jiva is wrong. There is only one consciousness throughout the world. That is, when this consciousness of mind changes to that, that is called knowledge. On attaining knowledge, one goes into samadhi, and that is the sign. One becomes fully absorbed in that reality without a trace of ego. And the ego disappears. But it is very difficult to obtain such knowledge. A lot of sadhana, a lot of tag of I has to be done. It is said in the Vedas that a man experiences samadhi when his mind ascends to the seventh plane. Now, it must have been in Vedas, Thakur is telling that, but we find this discussed more in Yoga Vashishta, seven planes. The ego can disappear only when one goes into samadhi. Where does the mind of a man ordinarily dwell? In the first three planes. So, seventh plane. First three planes, these are at the organs of evacuation and generation. And at the navel, third plane is navel. These are at the organ. Then the mind is immersed only in worldliness, attached to woman and God. A man sees the light of God when his mind dwells in the plane of the heart. So the fourth plane, heart, is called plane of light. That means reflection of consciousness, you see. That is the light. He sees the light and exclaims, what is this? What is this? So very strange compared to our today's experience. The next plane is at the throat. When the mind dwells there, he likes to hear and talk only of God. That is the plane for Vairagya. When the mind ascends to the next plane in the forehead, between the eyebrows, he sees the form of Satchidananda and desires to touch and embrace it. Place for Aham Brahmasmi. But he is unable to do it. It is like the light in a lantern which you can see but cannot touch. Beautiful example. Huh? You feel as if you are touching the light, but in reality you are not. When the mind reaches the seventh plane, then the ego vanishes completely and the man goes into samadhi. That seventh plane place is not described here, it is in the medulla, brain. Vijay. What does the man see when he attains the knowledge of Brahman after reaching the seventh plane? So he wants to know the detail there. Master. What happens when the mind reaches the seventh plane cannot be described straight away. Because I is not there, so who will describe? For that example, once a boat enters the black waters of the ocean, it does not return. Black waters we discussed one day. People think that is the end of the world. And because in India, the concept was if you cross the land and go through any ocean, you will not return. And Andaman was used for torturous punishment. And so that water around Andaman was called black water. But here Thakur is using, nobody knows what happens to the boat after that. Therefore, the boat cannot give us any information about the ocean. Another beautiful example, once a salt doll went to measure the depth of the ocean. You understand? Salt doll. Because ocean water itself is salt. And from that only the doll is made. It is not any doll. Huh? Once a salt doll went to measure the depth of the ocean. No sooner did it enter the water than it melted. Now, who could tell how deep the ocean was? That which could have told about its depth had melted. Reaching the seventh plane, the mind is annihilated. Man goes into samadhi. What he feels then cannot be described in words. And he wanted to know. So Thakur told him. Then the I that makes one a worldly person and attaches one to woman and God is the wicked I. আমি খারাপ বলেছি the wicked eye. The intervention of this ego creates the difference between Jiva and Atman. This ego itself takes the form of that Jiva. Water appears to be divided into two parts if one puts a stick across it. The water is flowing below, it is not divided. It appears to be divided. But in reality, there is only one water. It appears as two on account of the stick. This I is the stick. How many ways Thakur has explained it. Remove the stick and there remains only one water as before. It is there already, so one can see like that. Now what is this wicked eye? It is the ego. That says, what? Don't they know me? I have so much money. Who is wealthier than I? This is Asuri Sampatti described in the Gita. If a thief robs such a man of only 10 rupees, first of all, he wrings the money out of the thief, then he gives him a good beating, but the matter doesn't end there. The thief is handed over to the police and is eventually sent to jail. The wicked eye says, what? Does the rogue know whom he has robbed? To steal my 10 rupees. How dare he? Sir, I, Vijay. If without destroying the I, a man cannot get rid of attachment to the world and consequently cannot experience samadhi, then it would be wise for him to follow the path of Brahma-jnana to attain samadhi. Because Thakur told jnana destroys this I. If the I persists in the path of devotion, then one should Rather, choose the path of knowledge. Master. It is true that one or two can get rid of the I through samadhi, but these cases are very rare. You may indulge in thousands of reasoning, but still the I comes back. You may cut the example. You may cut the people tree to the very root today, but you will notice a sprout springing up tomorrow. Therefore, if the I must remain, let the rascal remain as the servant I. So that is the solution, Thakur gives. This I is not bad. As long as you live, you should say, "Oh God, thou art the master and I am thy servant." The I that feels I am the servant of God, I am his devotee, does not injure one. Servant or devotee. Sweet things cause acidity of the stomach. Example. No doubt. But sugar candy is an exception. It is also sweet, but it does not cause acidity. The path of knowledge is very difficult. You are talking like that. One cannot obtain knowledge unless one gets rid of the feeling that one is the body. So the primary step is lose of body consciousness. In the Kali Yuga, the life of man is centered on food. Kali Yuga means the present age. He cannot get rid of the feeling that he is the body and the ego. Therefore, the path of devotion is prescribed for this cycle. This is an easy path. You will attain God if you sing His name and glories and pray to Him with a longing heart. There is not the least doubt about it. So, for realizing God, knowledge will automatically come if you have love for God. We have discussed this also. There is not the least doubt about it. If you sing His name and glories and pray to Him with a longing heart. So that longing is the most important thing. Suppose you draw a line on the surface of water with a bamboo stick. The water appears to be divided into two parts, but the line doesn't remain for any length of time. The servant eye, or the devotee eye, or the child eye is only a line drawn with the ego and is not real. So this devotion makes a man identified with God. Vijay, to the master. But sir, you ask us to renounce the wicked eye. Is there any harm in the servant eye? He wants to get clear everything. Master, the servant eye, that is the feeling I am the servant of God, I am the devotee of God, is adding both together, does not injure one. On the contrary, it helps one to realize God. Helps one to realize God. Vijay. Well, sir, what becomes of the lust, anger, and other passions of one who keeps the servant eye? Lust, anger, and other passions. Master, if a man truly feels like that, it is not imagination, a feeling, then he has only the semblance of lust, anger, and delight. So it appears, but it is not real. It has no force. If after attaining God, he looks on himself as the servant or the devotee of God, he cannot injure anyone. So Thakur has added a rider here. After attaining God, he has kept the servant eye. By touching the philosopher's stone, a sword is turned into gold. It gives the appearance of a sword but cannot endure. Value change. When the dry branch of a coconut palm drops to the ground, it leaves only a mark on the trunk indicating that once there was a branch at that place. So that is a beautiful example. Appearance. In like manner, he who has attained God keeps only an appearance of ego. There remains in him only a semblance of anger and lust. So he has told in Samadhi it will go. But he has turned it round now and says appearance may be there. He becomes like a child. A child has no attachment to the three gunas, sattva, rajas and tamas. So another way of looking at spiritual elevation, he becomes as quickly detached from a thing as he becomes attached to it. You can casually him out of a cloth worth 5 rupees with a doll worth an anna. These costings are of Thakur's time. 5 rupees for a cloth, and now it will be 500. And that doll worth an anna will now be 10 rupees, at least. Though at first he may say with great determination, no, I won't give it to you. My daddy bought it for me. Again. So, beginning he will say like that. But then if you give him a candy or a toy, he will give up that. So attachment, detachment, both. That is the Paramahamsas learn from children. Again, all persons are the same to a child. He has no feeling of high and low in regard to persons. So he doesn't discriminate about caste. If his mother tells him that a particular man should be regarded as an elder brother, the child will eat from the same plate with him, though the man may belong to the low caste of a blacksmith. The child doesn't know hate or what is holy or unholy. So, child's innocence is the thing. Absence of ego. Even after attaining samadhi, some retain the servant ego or the devotee ego. So, Thakur is describing this so-called ego in so many settings. The bhakta keeps this eye consciousness. He says, O God, thou art the master and I am thy servant. Thou art the Lord and I am thy devotee. He feels that way even after the realization of God, not before. His eye is not completely effaced. Again, by constantly practicing this kind of eye consciousness, one ultimately attains God. So he comes this. He has talked of after Samadhi. And then he tells that this is the way to Samadhi. This is called Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti as a means of Samadhi. One cannot attain the knowledge of Brahman to, one can attain the knowledge of Brahman too by following the path of Bhakti. So this is Thakur's direct instruction. God is all powerful. He may give his devotee Brahmajnana also, if he so wills. But the devotee generally doesn't seek the knowledge of the Absolute. He would rather have the consciousness that God is the master and he is the servant, or that God is the divine mother and he is the child. So that is enough for him to be Jivan-Mukta. Vijay, But those who discriminate according to the Vedanta philosophy also realize him in the end, don't they? So, because they were addicted to that nirakar, so he asked this question again. Master, yes, one may reach him by following the path of discrimination too. That is called Jnana Yoga. But it is an extremely difficult path. Again and again, Thakur is repeating the same thing. In the Gita, it is said that klesho adhikatarastesha, because the body consciousness is the main difference between Bhakti Yoga and Jnana Yoga.
This shloka is the heading of the chapter section.
Huh?
This mantra is the heading in the Bengali.
In Bengali, it is there, no?
Heading. Kleshvatikatarasteşam avyakta asakta chetasam.
In the heading, para heading. But it is extremely difficult path. I have told you already of the 7 planes of consciousness. On reaching the 7th plane, the mind goes into samadhi. If a man acquires the firm knowledge that Brahman alone is real and the world illusory, that is Jnana Yoga. Then his mind merges in samadhi. But in the Kali Yuga, the life of a man depends entirely on food. How can he have the consciousness that Brahman alone is real and the world illusory? In the Kali Yuga, it is difficult to have the feeling, I am not the body, I am not the mind. One comment here doesn't mean that Thakur does not ask some people to attain that. He had chosen his boy devotees who would become sannyasis later on, and to them he would always emphasize the ILA state, samadhi, and he guided all of them. So he's talking to Vijay Krishna Goswami. He was a married person. In the Kali Yuga, it is difficult to have the feeling I am not the body, I am not the mind, I am not the 24 cosmic principles. I am beyond pleasure and pain. I am above disease and grief, old age and death. That is how the Jnana Yoga is defined. However, you may reason and argue, the feeling that the body is identical with the soul will somehow crop up from an unexpected corner. So that is the main difficulty. Example, you may cut a peepal tree to the ground and think it is dead to its very root, but the next morning will find a new sprout shooting up from the dead stump. One cannot get rid of the identification with the body. Therefore, the path of bhakti is best for the people of the Kali Yuga. It is an easy path. And I don't want to become sugar. I want to eat it. I never feel like saying, I am Brahman. His own example. Huh? I say, thou art my Lord and I am thy servant. It is better to make the mind go up and down between the 5th and 6th planes, like a boat racing between 2 points. I don't want to go beyond the 6th plane and keep my mind a long time in the 7th. That means you'll go to 7th, but you will not keep there. My desire is to sing the name and glories of God. It is very good to look on God as the master and oneself as his servant. Further, you see, people speak of the waves as belonging to the Ganges, but no one says that the Ganges belongs to the waves. The feeling, I am he, is not wholesome. Because that I contains so many things. A man who entertains such an idea while looking on his body as the self causes himself great harm. That is the problem. As soon as we say I, the body comes. And to call that as Brahman is wrong. He cannot go forward in spiritual life. He drags himself down he deceives himself as well as others. He cannot understand his own state of mind. But it isn't any and every kind of bhakti. So bhakti, bhakti, bhakti has been telling. But there rider he puts. But it isn't any and every kind of bhakti that enables one to realize God. One cannot realize God without prema bhakti. Love. Experience of love. Another name for prema bhakti is raga bhakti. Raga means attachment. So attachment to God is prema. God cannot be realized without love and longing. Unless one has learned to love God, one cannot realize it. So bhakti is easy comparatively. There is another kind of bhakti. We shall read that afterwards. Om Tava Kathāmritam Tapta Jivanam Kaviviridhitam Kalmashapam Shravanamangalam Srimadasatam Bhuvi Grunanti Ye Bhurida Jana Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.